remember a time back then when I was in elementary school. I saw a friend with money in his hand and I asked him where he got that money from. He said he had an allowance from his parents. That was actually the first time I ever heard such a term, but I didn't know the meaning of it, but wondered why I didn't get this type of benefit from my parents. So when I went home and asked my dad when we were eating dinner, and I asked him an innocent question for an allowance, you can imagine the expression of his face when he heard what I said, but honestly, it was like saying to my dad, since you're going to walk all day and not enjoy that money, can I have it? Looking back at it now, he would have responded describing the literal word allowance. He would have just taken it to the next level for 2 hours if I know my dad well, but he rightly said, son, I'm not going to pay you to sit around and do nothing. I knew right away what he said was right. But as all of you well know, I'm paying tribute to my own dad. But I just don't want to call him just a provider. But really, to me, my dad is a dedicated, hardworking father because of his obligation as a father to cover the opportunities that he didn't have himself, and provided for my 5 brothers, my only little sister, and myself, influenced me to make me who I am today through his sole dedication from working all day. A father that cares for a big family that he created. A primary example of my dad's dedication of working hard for the family is that he literally works all day, perhaps every day since beforehand, since the day I was born, and still now up to this point. My dad created a professional landscaping business from the ground up and built that reputation for himself. He labors every day, leaves every morning whenever the weather is right, and comes home exhausted around 6 to 8 p.m. I can interpret how hard my father has worked through the texture of his own hands. I had a brother explain to me how hard my dad has worked. His hand felt like rubber gloves, though if I recall ever feeling my dad's hand, it felt like sandpaper, which didn't feel like skin. This is the dedicated hands of someone who has worked every day of his life when he started the family. Unlike my hands, which never seem to know the meaning of hard labor. They're soft hands as if they're lotion, but they aren't lotioned. I mean, I worked with my dad on some occasions that he asked for help. He saw that I got tired a few times and asked if it was too much for me. My ego forced me to tell him that it wasn't a big deal, though it was, and he knew. I know how hard my dad has to work nearly every day because to financially support a big family of 7, which is my next reason. I had a relative who was questioning the suggestion against the amount of siblings in her family. My aunt, with 3 kids herself, sat down with me and said, don't be like your dad who financially put himself in danger by having so many kids, because if you're not careful, kids will just appear uncontrollably like boom, 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 and all of a sudden you have heavy burdens. Now, to me, who's the 4th sibling, it sort of insulted me what my aunt said, because if it weren't for my dad making the call of having so many kids, I wouldn't have existed, maybe. If I presume the reason of my dad for having so many kids as not a mistake, he likes the fact of having a lot of sons. I mean, it came son after son after son. My mom actually wanted at least one daughter out of the whole process, and then for the 7th sibling was my only youngest little sister. So, but to my dad, having a lot of kids wasn't occurring him as a burden. He took it as an opportunity and proved that it wasn't a big deal. If you're willing to dedicate the time to create a big family who has to really love him back to motivate him, which we do, even in the burdens of covering expenses of a big family, he still goes above and beyond for me to cover the troubles I have in college, financial troubles, which is my last reason. By what I was saying of him covering the financial troubles, he cares enough to pay the gas bill for me to go to college, which should be my responsibility, even though I don't have a job. With the opportunities that he didn't have, he didn't get to go to college. He only has a high school diploma. But with the opportunities providing me, he wants me to attend college to get a level of education that he didn't. For him to do that, my brothers and I, even my little sister, have the same amount of opportunity as any other person that we've met around us, all because of a caring father if I ever asked for. So with all the things I said about my dad, what he does for a living, all the things I was good, what he provided for me, what made me the person today, all of it began with my father. So thanks, Dad. I love you to death. For all of you done for me was already enough.